Hi, this is Terry Bay of Terry Bay Needlework Designs, and welcome to my Stitch Guide series. If you have any questions, you can contact me either at the email or at the website, which you see right in front of you now. All right, today I'm going to show you how to create an open channel for hem stitching, also known as cutting and reweaving threads. Now, I know a lot of people panic when they think about cutting fabric threads. First of all, the first thing you need to know is that everything is fixable. Some fixes are more tedious than others, but if you cut a wrong thread, it can be fixed. It's not the end of the world, so don't let the fear of cutting threads keep you from doing cut work embroidery, because it's gorgeous and it can really add a big step to your repertoire. Okay, so today, first thing we're going to talk about is opening a channel. Now this would be if you're going to do hem stitch, sometimes for filling stitches, but more for hem stitching or for certain pulled work. So by opening a channel, which means I need to remove some fabric threads, so I've got an open spot in which to do my stitching. Okay. So to open that channel, we need to cut. Now I've done a simple basting over and under groups of 4 because I like to hem stitch in groups of 4s. Some hem stitches will be groups of 3, some will be groups of 2. 4 is pretty common. All right, so in this we're going to pretend that I need to cut, that my hem stitch channel is going to be above my basting, and I need to take out 2 threads. So to do that, I'm going to go to the middle of my channel, which is about here, and I'm going to slip my scissors under 1 thread. Even though I'm cutting 2, I'm going to cut 1 at a time. Focus. There we go. Couple things about cutting that will help you. Always make sure you can see the points of your scissors. If the point of your scissors are hidden under your fabric, you can be cutting more than what you think. So you always want those points up and seen. Also, your scissors, you want them to be very sharp, obviously, and you want those blades to be very thin. Thicker, clunkier blades make it harder to cut fabric threads and are going to make it more difficult for you instead of easier, and we all want the tools that make it easier. These, I believe, yep, pull it out. These are gingers, or ginger, or yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it, Gingher. Can't quite see you'll have to trust me on it. The 3.5-inch embroidery. My favorites are Dovos, and they're not being produced anymore, so I like these two just as well. The main thing is small, thin, sharp blades, and definitely you want a point, because it's much easier to pick up one thread like that with a point than it is with a rounded edge. Okay, so you pick up your thread, you double check, triple check, make sure it's the right thread, and then just cut. Yeah, it is that easy. No need to panic. All right, so in creating a channel, we usually remove pairs of threads, and this is what I'm going to show you. Even if you need a channel that is 4, 6, 8 threads high, I still like to remove them in pairs, because if I remove all of them at once, then my fabric loses its stability. Okay, so what I've started doing is I've taken my needle, and I am just working this thread loose from the center out toward the edge of my fabric. Now when you get it about this far, you can get a good hold on it, and there's not a ton of fabric left. You can pull it, but don't grab and rip. Again, you're going to abuse your fabric, and we don't want our fabric to be abused. So just pull it and just kind of gently coax it out. Support your fabric as you're pulling. All right, there's half of it. Let's get that other half out. Again, start with the needle and pull it back a ways till you can get a good hold on it, and you don't have a lot of fabric left. I wouldn't do it with more than about 6 inches of fabric left to the side. So remember, we're moving from the center to the edges, and then just pull it completely out. So there's thread number 1. Thread number 2 is above thread number 1, so we're going to. Now this one's easier to find, obviously, because we've cut the one below it, and it's easier to get the scissors in because you've got some open space. Now this one we don't pull completely out. This is where our reweaving happens. We're going to gently with our needle take it over to what would be the edge of the design, or is also commonly called the margin. Here I'm going to say it's where my basting is ending. So you get it to that point. Yep, there we go. And then you take the end of your fabric thread, thread it onto your needle. Now we're going to make a U-turn with this and weave it back into our open channel that we left by removing thread number 1. Toward the edge of the fabric. So as you see, I'm leaving the center open here, and I'm weaving toward the edge of the fabric. Let me get that basting line out of the way. Oops, I didn't mean to unthread it, but that happens sometimes. So as you can see, this thread has done a U-turn, and I'm now weaving it right back to the place where I removed the first thread. Let me get this rethreaded, which might be easier said than done, but I will manage. And again, I'm just going to start reweaving. Over and under to fill the weave of the fabric back in. And of course this one's being extremely difficult. I do this at warp speed when I don't have a camera on. It's like I jokingly call it, yep, I'm drifting, sorry. I jokingly call in class proximity to teacher. The closer I am, the worse things go for my students. That's kind of proximity to camera here. If I've got the camera on, I can't pick up threads. My needle comes unthreaded, all that fun stuff. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull it through. Alright, normally I would try and weave that to the very end of the thread, but I'm saving a little time here. And then you can stroke it a little bit with your needle to get that weave to lay a little flatter. Gently wiggle it on the bias, very gently. We don't want to abuse our fabric. And you should hopefully be able to get it to the point where you almost can't tell that you've woven another thread back in and it just looks like the original fabric. So then I'm going to come over and do the other side. Let me make sure, there we go. Take it over to what will be the margin of my design, which for this one is here at the end of my basting. Alright, I'm going to have to turn it because my wrist doesn't like to stitch in that other direction. Alright, and now I'm going to U-turn and reweave. Let me make sure I'm up. There we go. and you just go over and under, following the weave of the fabric. Now I stack on as many as I can, especially when, like with this one, I've got a pretty short length of fabric thread to weave back in. I'll show you with this one since the first one I didn't. I will stack on as many as I can and still be able to shove that needle through. And if you end up kind of gathering the fabric a little bit, that's fine. You'll straighten it out after you pull the thread through. Because you really only need to get it far enough to make sure your fabric is stable and that any area that doesn't get rewoven won't show, whether it's because of your framing or if you finish it like in a biscornu or something like that, a bell pull, that whatever doesn't get rewoven will be cut off. Okay, I'm going to say that's good, and yeah, to shove that I'm going to have to kind of scrunch my fabric a little bit. Pull it through. Now when it gets to this point, I will hold on here so I don't pull that U-turn too tight. So I can tug and play a little bit here without this collapsing too much. It's going to collapse a little. There we go. And if it collapses a little bit, yeah, see it did? See how it's pulled over a little bit? Put your needle right in the middle of that U-turn and gently pull inward to loosen that fabric. And then I'm going to, yeah, if you wiggle it, I've found for me wiggling it on the bias like this just a little bit really helps settle that into the weave. Okay, so that's creating an open channel. So I've done one with just 2 threads here. If you need a bigger channel, you just keep cutting and reweaving in pairs. Cut and remove one, cut and reweave the next, just however many pairs you need. Alright, so the next video I'm going to start showing you hem stitch. But to keep these from getting too long, this is just the open channel. Thanks for watching.